I think a few years ago, when there were a string of murders against artists and journalists, there was a very controversial statement that you made, the statement that became controversial rather. So if I could simply revisit it and to contextualize that in a post-2014 environment, you basically called the intelligentsia vulgar. And I think a lot of people, not just in our audience, but that's become the popular sentiment. The intelligentsia has lost its credibility. The Lutyens Club, as it was called, has been sort of dismantled, is what they say, and the intelligentsia has become more provincial in nature. So currently, how do you see that transformation in a post 2014 India?
A lot of Indians are poor, and we just saw, what happens when you don't have enough infrastructure for healthcare, in India. And, I don't want to join the blame game of blaming the Kerala government or the Maharashtra government or the Delhi government or the West Bengal government or the Karnataka government or the national government.
Right.
I think India as a country, we as a people, we were not prepared. We haven't built the necessary redundancy. I know it sounds like a contradiction, but we need redundancy. Just like the river needs a large space to flow. It may not flow like that for 40 years, but on the 41st year, it'll occupy that entire space. And if you have encroached that part and built property there, you'll get washed away. That's what has been happening in this country. So we need redundancy, for a health crisis, but we didn't have it, and we saw what kind of tragedy can happen. And, we should be concerned about that. And I think it is very necessary that the best minds in India engage with an idea of how we can actually become a better nation that can actually meet the constitutional goals or even the idealism, respond to the idealism of the fathers, of the Indian Constitution. The problem now is that none of these worthies, these so-called intellectuals, none of them are even useful, in actually transporting somebody from their place to a hospital. They probably wouldn't know the address of that hospital. And, if they fall ill, if they're very top class intellectuals, they'll get state support for their, for their misery. They don't go to some small government hospital like poor people or middle class people have to. See, they're utterly useless. What will you do with them? You look at the great natural disasters that have happened in this country. I'll tell you one of the greatest, gravest crises confronting the world, and it'll probably hit a country like India the hardest, will be, climate change. We will have shortages of food and water, and, we'll have disease, we'll have more pandemics perhaps because of that, because of temperature change and all that. Right. What do these people? They're very good to write articles, in brilliant English against somebody they don't like, particularly, the prime minister or some other popular minister in government. They'll write, and they may be right or wrong, but they're utterly irrelevant. Print carried an article this week. They've carried, I think you should look it up. They have done a survey of some 1,500 people, or just short of 1,500 people, with an organization called Prashnam. And that organization has asked this question on this Pegasus scandal. It's current and ongoing. So that really illustrates what I'm saying. And only 15% of those people have heard of Pegasus, okay, of the people they've met. So Narendra Modi should not worry about 85% of the people, okay? Then in those 15 people, more than 50% think that Pegasus is another vaccine for COVID or something like that. Really, I mean, like, it's as ridiculous as that, okay? But, see the noise that happened during the COVID thing. And I thought something useful will come, that the that in Parliament's time will be used, that the government will be challenged to increase the budget for health infrastructure in the country, maybe cut down what is spent on defense. I know it's an unpopular view, maybe in some quarters, what I'm saying, but one time dramatically increase the infrastructure for health and for education, because we probably will have to go into a virtual world substantially in the future for education. No, they're boycotting Parliament. Trust me, 20 at least of those 22 bills that are there will be passed without any discussion. And these people will blow up all their time on Pegasus because they're lazy and dangerously, they're guided by intellectuals who will tell them that this is an important issue. It must be an important issue, maybe for a play or a film. But the country is facing serious crisis. I'm sure it's an important matter, prying, tapping into people's phones, not a good thing. But you know what? I was a journalist in 1986 when the Ramakrishna Hegde government was involved in a telephone tapping scandal. And now it's become the norm. It's, you'll have to tell me whether it's illegal. This is what I mean. See, this irrelevance is a great problem. And the reason I said that the intellectuals are irrelevant is that they spend all their time on nonsense. Nothing they say will matter simply because they prefer to speak in English in the first. They prefer to write in English. 1% of the Indian population listens or watches English language shows. 1 or 1.5%. That's it. Okay. So, they're very happy to stay where they are. And as a supporter, of Narendra Modi, I continue to be a supporter in spite of so many problems that have happened, simply because I cannot trust the competence of these people in looking at a problem. Forget analyzing it, even looking at it. They never look at Indian issues. They never look at climate change. They never look at environment. They never come to any of the protests that you do. They will participate in an environment protest if they think that the government that is there of the day can be attacked by somebody. That is the reason they'll be there. They'll not be there if their own government is there. Like now the Karnataka BJP government, they in the early days, they began to talk about elevated corridors. And, it was an old idea, that has everyone seems to love elevated corridors. It's like sugar, bacteria, virus, everyone loves it, So I said, I met the BJP, leaders here, along with some people. And I said, we will go and agitate if they do it. And we should do that, that you should stand up for fundamental ideas of right and wrong. And it does not matter who does right, you need to support it. And who does wrong, you should criticize it. Right. That honesty or integrity is broadly lacking. I know I'm, painting it with a very broad brush, but broadly lacking in the Indian intellectual class.
Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.